Hi, this is Mark. Welcome back to another tutorial. And today we're going to talk about the tools we usually use in troubleshooting computer network cables. And to start with is the punchdown tool. By definition, a punchdown tool, or called a crone tool, is a small hand tool used by telecommunication and network technicians. It actually looks like this, and this is, let me just show that. Um, this one. This is the punch down. Let me just move my screen here. Okay, so this is the punch down tool, this one, the one that you see here. And let me continue on reading the part there. Okay. Okay, so it is used for inserting wire into insulation displacement connectors or punch down blocks. So patch panels, keystone modules, and surface mount boxes. And the one that we see on the video that I'll be playing in a while, is a mount box, okay, or also known as the biscuit jacks. Most punch-down tools are of the impact type, consisting of a handle and internal spring mechanism and a removable slotted blade. To use the punch-down tool, the wire is pre-positioned into a slotted post, and then punch-down tool is pressed down on top of the wire over the post. Let me just play that video so that you will see how it works. I'm going back to the punch down tool. Sorry for that. This one. Okay, so this is the punch down tool, and you use that. This is the wall mount. Okay, and we connect the UTP. Okay, we assemble the wires here. The UTP cable is going to be inserted here, and then is going to be um, there, as you can see. The wire is tied so that it won't move, and then all these individual wires will be punched down into these small slots here on the side. Okay, so it will now be arranged according to the correct position of the wires. All in all, you have 8 solid wires. Okay, there, it's now being placed there, and then it's going to be um, punched down, and then it will be cut also. Okay, uh, punched and at the same time will be cut. Okay, so that's why you call it a punch down tool. Okay, so we use this for this kind of wall mounts. We also use this in a patch panels. Okay, you'll be able to understand all the more as we go through with the next other lessons. Okay, so at least now you have seen how a punch down tool works. And if you have um, your internet connection at home, maybe some of the technicians have already worked on this kind of setup in your respective homes for the connection. Okay, so that is for the punch down tool. Next is um, let me just next is the crimper. It's very basic, and this is what we usually use. Basically, if you're going to set up a cable, especially RJ UTP cables, okay, it's a crimping tool that is designed to crimp or connect a connector to the end of a cable. For instance, you use one type of wire crimper to RJ45 connectors on unshielded twisted pair cable. So UTP stands for unshielded twisted pair, and we also have sometimes we have STP or shielded twisted pair. Okay, we're going to discuss the differences on that on our lecture discussion. So let me just show you also how a crimper looks like, a crimping tool or a crimper. Okay, this one. This is the crimping tool. We put the UTP or STP cables and then we organize it in a series of color-coded sequence. Okay, when done organizing, what's next is you insert it in a RJ45. When it is now punched down, or I mean, the wires are already inside the RJ45 jack. The time for crimping now is time for the crimping tool is the next part. Okay, so that means you are going to insert this RJ45 jack into the crimping tool, and that is the crimping tool, the one on the this one. So this is the crimping tool, and it's now going to crimp and squeeze. You need to squeeze it tight securely, and just be sure that you don't damage the copper um copper, this one here. Okay, because sometimes when you don't do it properly, uh you are you will be able to it sometimes happens that you damage the coppers there. Okay, the golden colored metal thing here. This is the one that connects or is in contact with your switch or with your network device. Okay, so say for example a router or a switch, these ones here. Okay, the copper is going to connect to it. The idea here is that when you crimp it, the copper goes down and penetrates the wire, so that this copper here, the mounted copper, will now come into contact into the wire and now is ready to be, when you have done it properly, it will be ready for connecting into the connecting points also of, or the ports of the router or switches. Okay, so that's an example of how you use the crimping tool. Okay, next now is we have the um, multimeter or multimeter. So I'm sure that you're familiar with this already because we as computer students, we don't, this is not only for us, this is for the use of technicians in dealing with electronics and electrical wirings. So um, they use this most of the times. Okay. So a multimeter is an instrument used to check for AC, stands for alternating current, or DC, direct current voltages, resistance and continuity of electrical components, and small amounts of current in circuits. There are switches onto what type of measurement you're going to take. May it be current, you're going to take the AC or DC, or also it could be the voltage. Okay, so in this example, for the scenario, is this instrument will let you check to see if there is voltage present on the circuit. If you are hesitant, if when you try to plug an appliance and the appliance doesn't turn on, the possibility is that it's not going into contact properly, or there's no power on the outlet. So you can use a multimeter or multimeter, digital multimeter, or it can be also analog multimeter to verify if there is voltage or current in the outlet. Okay, so I'll show you an example of how it looks like. Multimeter, okay, this one. So this is a multimeter, sorry. for that. This one here. This picture, you have the one of the famous brands is Fluke. It's expensive one. So you have probes here that you connect on to one end to the other end to check if um, whatever unit you'd like to check, whether it be voltage, whether it be current or resistance. So you'd be able to to find out what the values, and it will be displayed here on the LCD screen. Provided that you switch on, this is the switch or the selector for us to check whichever value we'd like to measure. Okay. So next is that's the multimeter. Okay. Next one is the toner probe. This is interesting. Okay. This device has two parts, the toner and the probe. The toner sends the tone, and the other end of the cable, the probe receives the toner's signal. This tool makes it easier to find the beginning and the end of the cable. So, a scenario for that is a toner probe generates a signal that is transmitted on the wire you're attempting to locate at the other end. You press the probe against individual wires. So, let me show you an example of how the probe looks like. This one. So, this is the toner probe. So this one, this part here, you connect it at one end. So this is very useful if you have a very, very long wire and there's several wires and you need to check which one end is connected to the other end. So if it was not labeled properly, you won't be able to detect which cable is actually on the other end. So this type of tool, you connect this one, say for example, you connect this to one port, the other side, okay? And then this one, you run this through all the other cables. The one that makes a sound, you can adjust the volume of the sound of this. The one that makes a sound, that means that is the cable that is found on the other end. So it's going to be easier now to find out which end is connected to the other end of the cable. Okay, so this makes it easier if there's a lot of cable that you need to trace, and there are long cables. Okay, so this tool is really, really going to be very handy and useful in that circumstance. So let me go back there. On the toner probe, under the scenario, on the toner probe, it generates a signal that is transmitted on the wire you're attempting to locate. At the other end, you press the probe against individual wires. When it makes contact with the wire that has the signal on it, the locator emits an audible signal or tone, as what I have explained to you. Now the next tool is, we're almost there, is the cable tester. It's very, very useful also. It kind of works like a like a probe, but you are able to check individual wires from, there are by default, you have 8 pins in a UTP or STP. So if you check, depends on what kind of connection you need, it be crossover or straight through, you'd be able to check if your configuration of the wire or connecting it to the RJ45 is correct. So it is a cable tester that is used to test the strength and connectivity of particular type of cable or other wired assemblies. Enables administrator scenario is it enables administrators to test a segment of cable looking for shorts, improperly attached connectors, or other cable faults. How? Because you have light indicators showing. Okay, so let me just show you this one. Okay, so this is an example of a cable tester. Excuse me. So you have your, if you one end is connected here and then the other end is connected here, when it is an example of configuration of your wire is straight through, if it is connected properly, it will light at the same time. So one will light here, one will light on the other end. Two, because you can actually detach this small part here. You can remove it, slide it up, and then you can put it on the other end of the other of the cable. So will be one end. This part here will be connected to one end of the cable, and then the other one is connected to the other part of the cable. And then if it's an example, if it's straight through, so when light, it's the correct light indicator should show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it should be in sequence. Okay, um, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is a guide on which color goes first on this kind, and we can there's a standard for that. But if you do forget about the sequence and you don't have internet, you can just configure it in such a way that pin one is on this end is connected to pin one on the other end, and two will be connected to pin two on the other end. Okay, so that should work if it's in straight through. So this again is what do you call this? You call this as the cable tester. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and that is the loopback plug. Okay, this is not really common to basic network technicians, but the more advanced they need this to troubleshoot connections in switches. Okay, a loopback plug is basically a connector used for diagnosing transmission problems. It is plugged into a port such as a serial or parallel port and crossed over the transmit line to the receiver line so that the outgoing signals can be redirected back into the computer for testing. So the scenario is when troubleshooting in a network device, you might want to confirm that a network interface is functional. For example, that it can transmit and receive traffic. One way to perform such test is to attach a loopback plug into a network interface and run diagnostic software designed to use the loopback plug. Okay, to show you how a loopback plug looks like, um, where's that? Okay, this one. This one is the loopback plug. This one. Okay, you connect it to this end, and then the other one is to the other end. Okay, this is the loopback plug, and then the other end is connected into the switches. Okay, and then there are softwares that you run the diagnostic test to check the reliability of your connection. Okay, so this is for more advanced network technicians, the loopback plug. Okay, so let me just open the other one. Okay, so we're here. Sorry. Okay, so that's the end of our discussion on tools that we can use as network technicians or in basic troubleshooting of network connection of our wires. Okay, so thank you so much for listening and for your time. And we're going to meet again and interact next meeting. Thank you so much for your time and have a nice day.